So, you want to learn how to make future bass in Ableton? Here's some sound design tips. Now, there's some secret tips that not many people really share, and they are so powerful if they're done the right way. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do them. I'm going to show you what you should think about while you do them, because that's very important. And if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Keep me making videos. But with that said, let's dive straight into it. Okay, so first up, I'm just going to show you this preset. And basically it is a sawtooth with just a little bit of sine wave on it, with a couple of voices, 4 voices, slightly detuned. And I have the amp envelope is just got a little bit of decay and sustain on it, tiny little bit of release. And then the envelope 2 is actually modulating a a high pass. So you can see this is what creates that horn sound. And in the effects, I have some distortion, which is giving it a little bit of high crunch, some reverb, which is just filling out the mix a little bit, and then a filter, which is removing some of these low frequencies. If I don't have this filter, it'll sound really muddy and just crappy. So what we do here is we want to be able to change each one of these layers separately. So in order to do that, we have to duplicate this twice. I'm going to do 3 because I want to keep the original to do an A-B comparison later. And we're going to name this one highs or high, and the bottom one low, and then come into this MIDI clip and delete all of these notes that aren't corresponding to that layer. So the highs, I'm leaving all of the highest notes. The middle, I'm leaving all of the middle notes, and the lows, I'm leaving all of the low notes. Let's listen to this now. Doesn't sound any different to the original, but this is where it starts getting really interesting. What you want to do is you want to emphasize these layers even more. So I want to add some extra high harmonics to the highs. I want to add some extra low harmonics to the lows, and then I want to start panning them and adding effects to change each one. So now I'm going to come into the lows. I'm going to open up Serum, and I'm going to remove anything that is getting rid of the bass. Because it's a low layer, I want bass. So effects, the filter here is removing the bass. You can already hear how much of a difference that makes. And I'm also going to add a sub layer. I'm going to give it about a 20% level at a -1 octave. This gives it that tiny little bit of extra bass. And then for the highs, I'm also going to come into the effects, and I want to add some extra high crunchiness. Now, distortion is a great way to do that. So this is where the frequency of the distortion is actually working. So, and if I move it up, it'll get higher. You can hear it just adds that little bit extra. Now, what else I want to do is I want to pan some of these differently. The low bass always, or a sub bass, always wants to sit right in the middle, mono. So I'm only going to pan these two. So the middle, I'm going to pan, let's say, to the left. Maybe go 10 or 15. And then the high, I'm going to pan to the right, the opposite, 10 or 15. And then we can also come into these layers and EQ them differently. So the high layer, I want less low frequencies and more high frequencies. The middle layer, I want to leave where it is, maybe get rid of some of these low frequencies. And then the sub layer, I want to leave all of that stuff in there because it's the bass, the body of it. So let's listen to this now. Let's listen to the original. you can already hear how much of a difference that makes. Alright, so next up, I'm going to show you how you can do this on like Supersaws and really help juice up your Supersaws. So let's listen to this. As you can hear, it's really sharp, crispy, cuts through the mix nice. Now this is just a couple of oscillators, one with 3 voices, one with a single voice. These are the waveforms, and it has a tiny bit of a filter on it. That's it. Real simple, no effects, no modulation, nothing. Now, I have an OTT on this because this helps it cut through the mix. So this is without it. Now with it. This is really cool. OTT is really cool to help cut through the mix. If you want to understand how to use OTT, check out my video up here somewhere. I suggest you do it. It's a really good explanation. So we're going to follow the same rules as we followed in the section before. So let's rename this to highs and then duplicate it. Rename this to middle, duplicate it, rename this to low, then come into these chords, and we're going to start taking some chords away. Now, because there's a lot more than 3 notes in these chords, we have to do it in groups. So I'm just going to basically take away all of these top notes like that, leave that one as it is, and then I'm going to come down into lows here, and I'm going to take away all of these high ones and just leave those low ones. And what I do have a sub bass down here, which is just exactly the same notes as these low ones. Now let's listen to this middle section. You can hear how it's still got a lot of crispiness to it. Now remember when I said earlier, you have to make each section fit where it belongs. I don't want that crispiness. I want it to be smoother. So let's come into the OTT, turn that off for 1. Now come into the Serum, and we can start changing some of these waveforms to something smoother. A simple sawtooth will be quite nice, and then maybe get rid of all this bend plus and just go 2 sawtooths like that. It still sounds, one of them sounds a little bit low. That sounds a bit smoother. Let's turn that down a little bit and then layer it with this one. You can hear how it just adds that, gives it more body in there. Same thing again with the low one. Generally the lower ones you want to be more simple. So let's get rid of oscillator B, come into oscillator A and just go a basic shape, a simple sawtooth like that, 1 voice, and we'll get rid of OTT again, and we're also going to get rid of this EQ here, give it a little bit more low end and get rid of some of this high end, and I'm also going to drag it down into this sub bass section, into this bass group, because I want it to be processed differently. Now it sounds good, but not really all there yet. So one thing that I really like to do on these low, simple body fillers is get a filter delay. And with these settings, what this does is we're turning off all of the filters and disabling the middle channel, and we're changing it from sync until time, and then leaving one at 1 millisecond, one at 10 milliseconds. Now this makes the left play at 1 millisecond delay, the right play at 10 milliseconds delay, makes the sound feel wider. I have a full tutorial on how to do this. You can check that up in the thingy up here somewhere. So let's listen before and after with this. Before and after. So that's it. Let's listen to what it was like at the start. And then with all of these other layers. You can hear it just gives it a lot more body and really helps fill it out. So, to summarize, what you want to do is split your chords into separate layers so you can process them differently. You really want to emphasize what layer it is. If it's a high layer, emphasize those highs. If it's a middle layer, emphasize the mids. If it's a bass layer, emphasize the bass. And if you do that right, you'll make you'll make all these different sounds sound like one cohesive sound. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. Or if you want a whole bunch of free stuff, you can visit my website at offthebeat.com.